Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Well, welcome back, everybody.
To the world's greatest podcast.
We are going to be talking about... Paul was on Cinnamon last week.
Hey, Paul.
Or actually, yeah, last week.
Yeah, last week.
I'm losing track. So tonight we're going to be talking about how we gauge other people, especially people in public, their response, whether their response to crisis or tragedy. The thing that kind of inspired
Is it comedy or tragedy? I mean, it's been a while since I've taken an English class, but I thought it was comedy or tragedy.
It's comedy is
I remember these two
timing
phases.
plus tragedy, right?
Times volume.
Yeah.
You know,
divided by space.
The 2,000-year-old man said, tragedy is I get a splinter in my thumb. Comedy is you fall on a manhole cover and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anyway, so this past weekend was the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which was the
Those are always
one.
funny. I bet there was a lot of comedy.
It was they didn't even hire a comedian.
There's going to be some shots fired.
They hired a mentalist. And I will say that when you have what lots of people are suspecting is a false flag and a mentalist, and the mentalist didn't understand, the pre-planned issue, that's not a great sign for the mentalist, right?
No, mentalists read minds. They don't tell the future.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Actually, mentalists, just be clear so I don't get, don't at me, bro. Mentalists are a type of magician who do a pretending reading of minds. Like, they don't even claim that it's real. Like, a good mentalist is out about the fact that it's a trick, but you don't know how I'm doing the trick.
Right. I was going to say, at best, they're. But anyway, so there was the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The first one Trump has attended as president because he doesn't want comedians joking about him anymore to his face. Although, he did a roast. I don't understand. Right. But I think
he probably ended up not enjoying it. I don't want to do that again.
Sure, but also I think that he may not have been senile because the roast was 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah. But when Obama roasted him, that is what pissed him off. Seth and Obama, that really pissed him off. So that was the same time period. He wasn't senility. Yeah. It's just when I wasn't in on the joke at the roast, he was in on the joke.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought that we should talk about, because there were, if you're watching this in the future and don't realize, there was a shooting. As far as we know, there was, because it's 2 days later. It's not all the information's out yet. That is probably going to come out. But as of right now, what we have been told is that there was a shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and some of the things, like I alluded to a minute ago, some people have said that there's, they think it's a false flag, and maybe it is. I don't know. We'll get there.
My position is I don't want to make that jump, but I won't be surprised if it is.
I agree with you, but I also think even if it was a false flag, there are people in that room who did not know that.
Oh, the entire every attendee.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so
there was a false flag. It was the potential of causing a heart attack, causing a stampede, causing real harm.
Right. So when I see people, there's been a lot of people online reacting to different things. There was the thumbnail for this episode is a woman who did a selfie and posted the Secret Service killed the guy or something, and people were upset with her. And as far as I know, they didn't kill him. So he was
arrested. Yeah, he's. I saw an article today that's saying that he's been charged with assassination attempt and blah blah.
Again, in the chaos of the moment, you don't know,
which is why it's always good to report in the chaos of the moment.
Right. I agree, but so the people were not, but she's not a reporter. She's just like an influencer that was there because she's pretty, right? I really don't know who she is, so I'm guessing that that's the whole reason she was there, because Trump wanted a pretty girl there. Girl being
that works.
the word. But she posted that there's been pictures of other people, pictures and videos of other people. I'm assuming it was after the dust settled a bit, going back to get wine bottles, and people being like, "That's not how you react." And I'm like, well, if there was a shooting but nobody was shot, and you're in chaos, and you may not be allowed to leave while they question people, maybe you do go.
Yeah.
Like I none of these things, and we have this conversation.
There is no right way to react to the trauma of being witness to anything like that, so being part of it. So yeah,
there is no right way, and luckily, the three of us, as far as I know, don't know what it's like to be in that situation to even like get second guess it, really. But not to say that like we would react the same as somebody else would genuinely react, right? We've
all had not so close ones, but like say 9/11, right? We all had reactions on 9/11. You know, there are people who are like, I'm just going to go on with my day because I don't know what else, or even January 6th. People were like saying, are we having this meeting? I'm like, do you not see what's going on TV? The world is falling apart. And they go, yeah, but I'm not there. Like some people have traumatic responses, and some people like go about your day. It's not unusual.
Yeah, absolutely.
According to
so
Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. Thank you. My mind went blank for a second. I was thinking like Alonzo, but I'm like, he's not the right person to say. Alfonso,
Ricochet Rita, I got one.
Right. So I have probably a disproportionate amount of experience with firearms related panic, but also with just general panic situations. Having a family member that had a health affliction that caused more than anyone's share of EMS dispatches to our home. And I was in an active shootout at the Wake County Courthouse probably 8 years ago. And I've heard from living in the city enough gun parts moving against each other, whether it be a slide, a bolt, a magazine insertion, any of that stuff. So I hear that, I immediately get behind something. It's just my natural response. So I got behind a concrete planter when it was the one in front of the courthouse. It was completely unrelated to me, but I heard a gun slide, immediately got behind some concrete. It's just what I know to do.
I did the same thing, and the guy from the construction company, the concrete planter, he was not happy when I pushed him in front of me.
Actually,
who are you, Stephen Miller?
I was gonna no. Stephen Miller was the only person who brought his wife along with him.
No, I was making the joke because a bunch of people were like completely taking advantage of the angle that photo was taken, and like, oh, look at Stephen Miller putting his wife in front of him, copping a feel. I'm like, stop! If you're gonna be a good progressive, don't be disingenuous.
Well, if you're gonna be in a shooting situation, cop that last feel. I mean, it might be the last feel. Right?
There's that
Go
too.
with a smile. And to be fair, if the shooting was like on the other side of him, he's behind her, protecting her from the back.
Fair.
Depends where the shooter was, but I assume they weren't going towards the shooter. He wasn't pushing her towards the shooter. So
if you had said to me 3 days ago, hey, hypothetically, if there was a shooting and all of like the Trump cabinet and all the Trump people were there, who do you think's the only one who grabs their wife to protect them? I think Stephen Miller might be the absolute last person that I would guess.
Yeah, well, yes,
and he's the only one.
Yes and no. Well, now look, Stephen Miller, like a lot of these folks that are in current MAGA Inc., they weren't all this hateful, or at least on the outside, this hateful in public media. Stephen Miller's always been this much of a just fascist Nazi prick. Yeah. So you're right. He's the last one I would expect to do it. Yeah. The one that I was most surprised was Cheryl getting like literally left under the table, but then,
well, to be fair,
chuckle fuck getting like grabbed and pulled out, you know?
To be fair to RFK, he's a Kennedy, so he knows there's going to be other women who will sleep with him. And Stephen Miller may not have that confidence, and he may have been like, "This is the one."
See, Stephen Miller
and
to me is
she's way
like,
better looking than she's good looking, and he's a hideous troll. But also, like when you look at them together,
he looks like fucking
like,
Dracula.
Yeah.
My thing with my thing, and you're probably right on the Kennedy, because Stephen Miller is like the only reason he's not a basement dwelling incel weirdo on a list is because he got connected and got married. If he was like single, he'd look more like JD Vance, another guy who's like, man, this is the most attractive woman I am ever going to get pay attention to me.
He met his wife while working for Trump as
I know.
So
he
like
ain't stupid.
He's also he got out of that like
stupid,
incel thing, the basement dwelling part before he met her is what I'm saying.
This is true, whereas Stephen Miller maybe didn't. So my experience with hearing that kind of thing and trauma is I have a really delayed response. So I just immediately start to like do the safety, do the protection thing. I don't cry. I don't become like emotional. I don't even become very jumpy. I just become very quiet and very deliberate in my motions. I imagine some of these dudes have never been in an active shootout, oddly enough, until they got on his campaign. So, and now they've been in some of it 3 times.
Every time his polls dip for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some people pointed that as reason why they think that it's a false flag to bring his polls up, but also like a president becoming less popular, and that like those things do coincide, like logically, right? Like, so it could be that. It could also be that like he's gotten a lot less popular.
But
fair.
I mean, part of also the incompetence of his staff. Like, would you believe that a would-be assassin could just be an invited guest to an event like this? Not under any other administration, but this one,
Well,
like I believe you could get that far because of incompetence. It doesn't have to be evil.
We have like a weird Bond villain as like a president, so the fact that there would be espionage amongst his
but he's more of an Austin Powers
sense.
villain than a Bond villain.
Well, Austin Powers had people trying to kill him for like comedic purposes. Bond was trying to kill Bond villains because they're evil. So I can see like the outside world.
I don't think it was Bond who was making the attempt. Though.
So I saw something today. A guy was saying, hey, what's the deal? Doesn't anybody aim anymore? Doesn't anybody know how to aim anymore? And then he goes, talking about bowling. You need to learn how to be bowling. And he goes on with the metaphor for a few minutes, but it's very clear what he's talking about. And I said, I think that you have the wrong sport. I think that this is more like basketball, and maybe everybody that we've seen is the Washington Generals. Because I think that there is a fair chance that, like, I just think that the amount of this that's happened and not had an issue does seem suspicious. Like, not had a real issue for him.
Right. So I was talking to my wife, and I'm going to ask the same question to the two of you.
No, we will not do anal with you.
I only do that with willing partners.
I know thank you for asking. We do appreciate. We do appreciate you asking.
One I'm asking between the two of you.
Am I the anal or am I the insert?
Well,
you did mention insertion earlier.
You will find out, Necco Wafers. So in this situation, all of these assassination attempts or acts of violence that have been against his current administration or even him directly, I am not sure if these are unfortunate, like, scapegoats or pariahs in this situation, or if these are individuals so down on their luck that they're willing to publicly wreck their life for some kind of favor on the other side. And the other thing that I asked her, is
like heaven. When you say other side,
no, more like they get charged federally with this crime, but then you never hear anything else. And the only time when we have real closure is when that person's dead. All of the recent acts of violence, so Charlie Kirk shooter, the dude at the golf course, Butler, Pennsylvania, he died. We don't hear any more about that.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk shooter, supposedly he is in prison, I think. So there's so many of these scenarios where there's an active, alive person. It never goes to court, but they get officially charged so that we can make a news cycle about it. But then the reason it never goes to court, I think, is because Discovery is going to find out it was a setup. Like, that's what I believe now. And I asked Holly, Which of those do you think is true? Just a serious, unfortunate situation where there's a crazed, mentally unwell person who wants to go harm a political leader? Or like there's these groups of people on the dark web that are just so lost in life, they're looking for a favor like this is some movie plot. And they're like, ooh, maybe I'll get hired by the president to do a fake hit. I don't care if they nearly kill me. You know? Or Holly even said, do you think it's people who are such zealots and believers in Trump that they're willing to do this for his honor kind of thing? Like they're willing to be like the white knight and they have to be trained on how to not be a false flag but be one. Like, which of those do you two think is more likely? Because I still don't believe these are legitimate crimes done by legitimate people on their own accord, and they happen to get caught by the best administration ever. Like, I don't buy that for a damn second. I don't.
I think that, it could be a combination because we have 4 incidents that you just mentioned, or 3 incidents, and we don't know that they weren't separately motivated, separately,
I know.
you know. So, like, you could have one of these, you know, one could have been a false flag, one could be real, one, you know, like, it could be any combination, right?
Yeah.
I will say, I don't remember with the guy in Butler whether or not he had a manifesto, and like he was kind of just looking for fame, right? Because he was checking out whether or not Biden was going to be nearby and Trump, and so that's like its own weird thing. That's kind of like in, you know, like almost like a taxi driver kind of move.
Okay, yeah, fair.
And then the guy in the bushes at the golf course,
yeah,
I never got the vibe that was how serious that even was. Like, because that was over and, you know, like stopped talking about it so quickly, and then just like another attempt.
Right? They called it,
right?
You know, it was. So here's the thing, though. It's always tough when you cherry pick. Here are some news items I know. Let me make a thing based against my imagination of other things. Because you know, I know of at least 3 attempts on President Obama's that were foiled by Secret Service. You know, in different places and at different times when one was a candidate, 2 when he's president, and there were probably more. I mean, the Secret Service, part of like the not knowing about it is they don't want to give out roadmaps of how to try to kill a elected official. Like they don't want to,
and they don't want you learning.
They don't want the security stuff going public. Like, you know, for Discovery, we want to know what are the routes that the Secret Service take around the White House. Like, you don't want that going
public. It's like
public.
that kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of reasons that it wouldn't be public. Besides,
yeah.
And like
I also
there are
think
some cases you never hear about. I'm sure there are assassination attempts that are foiled that if they didn't make the news at the time they happened because someone witnessed it, we just never knew because they don't want people to know how often it happens or if it happens. You know, all that's secret.
I also think when you look at something like the Charlie Kirk situation, I know it feels like it's been forever since we've heard anything new. It's been 6 months since it happened, basically, maybe 7 months.
Remember, it took 2 years to bring Trump to trial for boxes we had pictures of. You know, it takes
OJ,
time.
OJ took, you know, and I think that because we're in the situation of like, oh, everything is digitally at your fingertips, like we expect the justice system to be like that. Which it absolutely should not be, right? Like the justice system, I get that people have a right to
speedy trial or whatever.
Speedy trial, but that's also like there is a level to which you want a competent trial.
They don't have to have a speedy trial. If their defense needs time to be prepared,
exactly.
They don't want to be faster than they can get ready.
Right.
So are these unfortunate pariahs? Are these scapegoats? Are these hired? Like, I'm not saying all of them are the same thing because I agree with you. There are definite situations where some of them are more believable than others. So at the current job I'm working part-time at, there is an individual that is clearly a progressive thinker like myself. She and I were talking, and she said, why can't it be a fascist skinhead that tries one of these things instead of a brown person, a Muslim, an immigrant?
It would be nice if people thought about their representation when they do their crimes.
Also, even though this person was brown or black, that this past weekend, They were at some event with Usha Vance. I saw some clips of. So like
she's brown.
You know,
yeah,
they're not necessarily like the most liberal people in the world, right?
They're not. So you believe then these are truly unwell individuals? I mean, obviously, to do this, you must be an unwell individual.
Well, you don't have to be unwell. I mean, you could be someone.
I'm not trying to be rude. Are you going out and doing this?
No, but I mean, no, not today, right? But let's say my wife were snatched up by ICE and they didn't care that she's a citizen, and they deported her to El Salvador, even though she's Indian, and they broke my son's legs when he tried to defend her, and the legal system said nothing you can do legally. Would you have to be mentally unwell to say, well, my life has no meaning at this point, I'm willing to risk my life doing something crazy because I don't care. I mean, which is not the situation necessarily for this, but there are situations where someone can say it's a reasonable transaction to, if I can go back in time, I would shoot Hitler in his crib. I mean, the guy from North Carolina who went to Comet Pizza and tried to free the kids that were there. He left his family to go defend people that didn't exist in a basement that didn't exist.
But that's a mentally unwell individual.
But if he wasn't,
I and Mike are not mentally unwell.
That was unwell because there was no evidence that actually happened. Now,
Fair.
if you listen to Norah O'Donnell's, I'm sure one of you must have seen Norah O'Donnell's interview with Trump or bits and pieces of it.
Pieces of it, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a horrible person. Why did you read that filth?
Well, she reads what apparently is the manifesto, and it's like, well, there's legitimate reasons for all of that. Like, that's not Comet Pizza. That is not like there's a basement. No. Yeah.
If you believe something's horrible is going on, it doesn't make you a crazy person to do something about it. It's making
agreed.
Making
but
a
this also has
transaction.
more reason
One
to believe.
life for the life of millions.
Right, but this also has a reason to believe.
I don't know what movie I'm quoting. I don't even know what movie I'm quoting.
I'm not going to go get my legally obtained pistol with my legally obtained ammunition and go nuts, but I also don't consider myself a mentally unwell individual. These situations, because I have a nurse for a wife, she used to be bedside. She's not anymore patient-facing. She and I are always saying this is a clear indication. We don't need to know about your fantasy. Fair. This is her in Scrubs. Mamma mia. There are so many situations where we'll look at this and say, this is a clear difference where we do not approach mental health the same way other countries do, and we have access to weapons the way we do. So that's a bad combination to begin with. I would like to believe, audience and gentlemen, that this is not a situation where every time it's a lurker that is such a zealot for Trump that they're willing to basically end their life for him. And there are people who would do that for religious leaders all over the world. But then there's also the idea of, I can't believe every one of these are just angry people who fly off the handle. I don't see them both. I don't see all the situations being possible for both.
So let me ask you this question.
And my reaction is, like, which of it is true more often? Don't trust your lying eyes, or don't trust your lying eyes. Like,
okay, but let me ask you this question. Okay, so like, I got to be really careful how I word this question.
By the way, we are credentialed.
What I was going to say is you think that it's crazy to try that. But like, if we look at all the people who are saying that they don't care, that they're just upset that it was, for weeks and weeks, I've been seeing videos of people being like, is today the day? Is someone going to do it? Like, not saying what the thing is, but
where will you be when it happens? What will you do when it happens?
Right. And those people are saying that to the world, and so like, whether, they believe that
out of the 330 million Americans, how many are willing to take action? You don't need a high percentage for this one time to happen.
But so my point is where, I get that speech and action are different, but where is the line between who's going to do it and the person doing it? You know what I mean? Like, saying that out loud for, like, it's one thing to say,
lose your job, lose your farm, one thing that put you over the edge. And normally it's, look at it this way. How many people go, quote unquote, postal and go out and shoot their boss? because they blame him or her that they lost their job 6 months ago and they haven't been able to find a new one. This is just that to a higher level if it happened.
Right.
And I go to, the skeptics, fallback of the more, the bigger the claim, the bigger the evidence you need.
Yeah.
So what's a more logical claim? Somebody tried to assassinate a world leader, which happens all the time, or a false flag operation with 50 people involved in making it happen and nobody has cracked and said it and admitted to it and nobody got news. It doesn't make it impossible to be a false flag, but that seems like a harder. It needs more evidence to believe it than just saying they're both possible. Right. So that's 50-50.
And the people that are involved in this aren't the brightest of the bright and the best of the keeping secrets.
But to the point, I mean, Catherine Levitt said there'll be a shooting there before it happened.
Oh no, I love that. Shots will be
there
fired.
Are things,
Jesus,
things that were said that could have been not the brightest people.
True,
but also could just be. I didn't expect that literally to happen. I just meant they would insult people.
So when we're talking about our reactions to tragedy, if we consider, like in Matthew's household, I know that gun violence is considered a tragedy because it truly is. And his family's political stance is very much against easy access to firearms or weapons that can cause genuine injury, right?
Yeah, nuclear weapons too, yeah.
Huh?
Not just firearms, nuclear weapons, other things like that.
Exactly.
Grenades.
So I don't believe that any of us three, or even our audience, the next natural progression would be, like you said, what's that line? So I would go as far as to say Matthew's example sounds, if it's close to home and someone I care about or love, that's going to be where my line is. And I agree with that situation. I bet you Mike's situation is much the same. He has a family. I don't have a family, so either it's my hopelessly broken empathy system because of my disability, or it's just that I'm a wild idiot, but I cannot even see myself doing acts of violence if my brother or his family was targeted, because I know
you
it's
don't
not
love
gonna,
them that much.
But
this is a serious, this is a genuine conundrum.
It's definitely fair that you're not a violent person. You not being a violent person doesn't mean that someone else isn't a violent person.
Also, that's the math. The math isn't just. I'm speaking for me, not necessarily for Matthew, but the math isn't just somebody hurt my wife. The math for me would be somebody hurt my wife and my son, and I have nothing left to lose. That's a different thing than somebody hurt my wife and I need to also realize that the repercussions of me doing something could affect.
That's it right there. I'm afraid what I'm going to do is going to make it worse for them, and I'm just going to get on the news for all the bad reasons, and my brother is still going to be stuck in Libya because he was there for work. Or my nieces are going to be taken because they thought they were ghosts or something, because that's the next thing we're going to hunt down, or aliens.
But not everybody has.
Sure, it's going to be worse.
Not everybody has that system of family and loved ones to kind of make it. We all have something to lose. Potentially, and eventually, if you take those things away, you take away the hindrance of the thing that's slowing me down from doing something, and potentially you radicalize me in that process. We don't have nobody that I know has been affected directly from any of these things, and
Matthew,
I have a healthy and happy wife and son, and you know what I mean. We have. So we're in these situations, whereas we don't know what this shooter or the last shooter, and then also mental health can come into play, and there is a level of I am planning on dying anyway. May as well do something good with it. Which
is one thing people check right away. Is there any sign that this person had a health thing that they were
for
why
real.
not go with a smile?
Mm-hmm.
So Mike said, I don't have anybody. Well, hold on. Mike said, I don't have anybody directly affected. Matthew, do you have any close acquaintances, family, or friends that have been affected by decisions of this administration directly, that when you found out about it, changed some of how you reacted to the tragedy? Like, have you had that happen? Because I haven't, and Mike hasn't.
So indirectly. So just things like we canceled our trip to Aruba because my wife is terrified of leaving the country as a brown person coming back in, or even going near Aruba when we were attacking Venezuela while we were making our plans.
That hurts me so much to even think.
So like nothing happened to us directly except that we canceled a trip for 2 Trump things going on. Afraid of coming in through the airport, even though it wasn't, even though she's a citizen, because she wasn't always a citizen, and they don't really seem to care. They don't look at your ID. They take it away, and what do? There's no due process.
Yeah.
But also at the time we were attacking Venezuela, which is 15 miles from Aruba. Yeah. So we were like, what if we get shot down by accident? So we canceled a trip that we were looking forward to with friends. We were like, we have to back out because suddenly we're afraid.
So besides canceling the trip, what changes did you make that was like a radical turn, or that was a reaction to the crisis? Like, did it just strengthen your resolve? Did it change how you approach something? What went different?
I mean, you could say strengthen our resolve, but I mean, we've been at every protest, every No Kings protest, but we go to those anyway. So is that strengthen, or is that par for the course for us? That's hard to make a call on. But it didn't. Our resolve didn't unstrengthen.
Fair.
And something since you brought up my household's predilection for gun violence statistics and such. There were, according to one Google search article, just to have one that's reasonable.
The one that allowed you to see before it suppressed it.
At least 40,000 people were shot in the United States in 2025. So that's 110 people a day on average, right? Not counting suicide. So this was violent against other people crimes. So then you say, well, okay, if there's people willing to shoot 40,000 people, what are the odds that one of them is willing to do it at the White House, or not the White House, but at the hotel near the White House where the event was happening? It doesn't seem that unlikely that some people wouldn't try. You're
thinking there's some crossover in these Venn diagrams.
Yeah, saying, well, the three of us, you could say, like, I can't see a situation where I would go murder a person with a gun. That is not a common American attitude. Americans will murder people with a gun.
Yeah.
And the same and to be fair, Alex, to your concerns that it's a false flag, similarly, would you be able to recruit one of those people to be willing to, potentially take a bullet for the president? Probably. There's some people who wanted, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I think an attempt on him is more likely than a false flag. So I would need to see more evidence to believe it's a false flag.
I'm going to agree with that.
But I think it's possible. I don't think it's impossible. I just think I would need to see more evidence to jump to that conclusion.
Yeah, I would entirely believe that the likelihood of someone wanting to harm him, whether it's just politically motivated or whether it's just directly just good faith motivated, because I am of the mind that if you support anything that's going on now, there's so much evidence now that's even more provable than before that you're just a bad person. You just are objectively a bad person at this point. This could be any political party, and most everybody with a sound mind would say, no, that sounds like crime, that sounds bad, and that sounds just mean-spirited and rude. So that's not a good person. I can't support this in good conscience. So yeah, I agree there's likely someone that wants to harm him no matter the reason beforehand. But
and like Matthew said before, there's probably been an attempt on every president of our lifetime. We don't always hear about them. I remember, Bill Clinton, I think was president when I was, and I remember there being people going up to the White House spraying bullets, at least once or twice. I remember seeing that on TV, and obviously those aren't they're not the same level of threat to the president necessarily, because you're 100 yards back and there's, they're inside, but there's always somebody who, every president probably has had someone want and attempt to kill them.
And we just don't usually hear about it because it doesn't, it's not done on camera.
And I would argue, that we also have had, even though we don't think necessarily that George Bush was a competent leader, I'm sure Secret Service was competent under him, because he wasn't gutting.
He wasn't removing people from office.
He wasn't gutting budgets and cutting out the people who know better. And so, like, that's the other element here, is that, like, you may literally have incompetent people doing, you know, not to say that the Secret Service, but like if they're underfunded or, you know, whatever, there's lots of ways in the hotel security, because that's not, the correspondence is always at a hotel, right? So like hotel security may not have been equipped well, you know, may not have been budgeted well.
I'm thinking they weren't.
So like there's, so like, is this attempt, it's getting news because it was so close to the president, not necessarily because there was an attempt, because like Matthew said, there were attempts with Obama and we just didn't really hear much about them because they weren't credible attempts, because the systems in place worked to keep that, you know, because, you know, like
it was more easy to suppress information and everybody wasn't walking around with a really decent camera in their pocket. Yeah.
Well, okay, there's that too, but there's also the fact that like the system to keep, you know, like ultimately, like I said, back to where they were shooting at the White House 30 years ago or whatever, you know, like, yes, that's noteworthy because it was out in public, but like, I'm sure there's lots of those attempts where like the systems that are in place to protect the president are so qualified and so competent that nobody gets close enough for it to be noteworthy otherwise. And so like, that's probably part of the problem here.
Or just that it's whatchamacallit, not released to the public. Like, especially if it was a plot, which I'm sure they've broken up plenty of plots before they got to the execution standpoint, and we just don't hear about it because why should we? You know.
You also don't get you also didn't have other presidents coming out and being like, fight, fight, fight. You're never going to get, like, basically acting like the way a mobster does after a hit fails, right? Like Trump, you know, I feel like after those attempts on Obama, he uses them. He uses them as a, you know, whether they're fake or real, he's using them. Oh, I don't really see that Bush would have. I definitely don't think Bush Senior, Clinton, or Obama would have been like wearing it like a badge of honor.
Reagan did. Reagan was almost killed, and he didn't use it as a campaign point. You know,
right? It's the most likable thing about him is that when he was shot, he said to the nurse holding his hand, "Does Nancy know about us?" While they were rushing him into the. It's literally the best thing about that guy. And he could have used that forever.
Same when like Alfalfa was shot. When Alfalfa shot Buckwheat.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
So I want to believe, phrasing, I like if all of these were like genuine unwell individuals wanting to harm a political leader. It just happens to be the president and of the country I live in. I want that to be the case because it's difficult to have the current administration who, let's be honest, they're going to tell us what they want to tell us. So is everyone else. Right. I think there's too much financial motivation in most media for me to just believe what I read or see. And at this point, if it's not an Associated Press or Reuters, I don't care. And even they're a little late to some stuff because they're more factual and less sensationalized news sources. They're much more like, here's what happened.
That's their job.
They don't want to break the news and retract it later.
And let a reporter put context around it, which is why I agree. I like to read them just for that very purpose.
Yeah.
For me, I want the reactions. I don't know, because I used to be, if you felt great about Donnie before, but now all of a sudden Donnie is not a cool dude and you're disassociating from him. I don't even trust that situation, because the only individual I feel who can pull that off is Donnie himself, because he's so aware with his age, with the parameters around how our presidents work. He knows he can't easily, or with low amounts of friction, get back into office. So he doesn't care if he takes the entire damn world down with him.
I got to be honest.
Most of the people in his cabinet,
nobody seems to be acknowledging the fact that he is done in 2 years or 3 years. They all seem to be like, I mean, he may run again, who knows? And nobody's like, well, we would have to change the Constitution or something bad would have to happen. No one is talking about that.
Okay. That's a bunch of fucking talk, because a lot of things that they want to do, they're aware that it won't work, but they're still going to try it. I said low amounts of friction. It still is going to be attempted, just like the midterms are going to attempt to get fucked with.
Yeah.
So I used to be the person that before was, you know what, you were with him the first time, cool. You saw a bunch of the stuff that came out. Now you're questioning it. And now you're like, oh, I can't bring myself to associate with this group. Are you doing it for your own financial gain? Because if you look at the younger folks that aren't the president, that have possible careers ahead of them, they're the ones making distance from MAGA, hardcore MAGA, or a lot of the old white coots that are in office. Like, those individuals are like, you know what? I just might as well burn the whole place down because I'm over after this anyway. And they know that, and they act like it in the public eye. I can't believe that anymore and give that person an open hand. I'm much more like Matthew now. Oh, you associated and thought it was a good ever idea? Fuck you. No. Like, I'm getting so much closer to that's my response to these situations. And my response to tragedy is just as cold and emotionless. I'm like, oh, you thought that was a chill idea? Fuck you. You went because it was popular. Okay. You went because it better justified your bigotry. You went with it because it better justified the racist, evil shit you thought in your head, and you're just happy one rich joker from New York said it out loud. Ooh, I can say it too now.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but sorry. I want to say that the reactions when I said like not judging reactions is the people who are in these situations. And I use this one as an example, but like when you talk about the Boston Marathon bombing or 9/11, Matthew mentioned, earlier, or if you were at January 6th and you weren't one of the bad guys, how you're going to react in a time of just complete chaos or crisis. And we as society look at that, and we do it. They do it to rape victims all the time when they're like, well, that's not how you'd react. That's not how I would react if somebody did that to me. It's like, oh, that's cool that you know that for sure. If somebody put a gun to your head or somebody did this,
or I don't. Another person should react the way you did anyway.
Right.
Even if you're accurate, doesn't make a difference. That's right. Everyone reacts different.
Yeah, because I have no idea how I would react in these situations, and like
I think a lot of us don't.
So we talked about that a little bit with Erica Kirk when the Charlie Kirk stuff happened 6 months ago, and I said I want to give her
reaction was never genuine. That crazy bitch had the whole thing planned.
Okay, I don't disagree. I don't disagree now with 6 months behind us of like, oh, this is really weird. But in the moment when people were like, this isn't how you react, I'm like, how do you react? You know what I mean? Like now I
can agree with that too.
And I think that it's similar to waiting to judgment to rush the news, to put the news out. We have, like in the chaos of the moment, you don't always react right or the best way. Like if we all reacted the way that made the most logical sense or whatever, that would be, like the world would be a wildly different place. So at the time, Alex, you said something similar when we did our episode about Charlie Kirk. And I said, well, I'm going to reserve judgment because I don't want, I don't want to just.
It's like, I don't know the facts.
Just because she had the bad taste of marrying the guy doesn't mean she's a bad person. I don't know enough about her. Blah, blah. Now it's 6 months later.
She is a bad person.
Yeah. And so,
I was about to say, and here comes Matthew, like, I never liked the bitch. Like,
and so, like,
Mike and I are like, well.
In this situation, I think that there's a fair amount of like, okay, like that woman that took the selfie. I don't know. Like, there's lots of people who go to the White House events that maybe don't like, I know that it's nice when we see like a hockey team or whatever turn down the option, but there are also people who are like, I'm never going to get invited again, and I'm going to go even if I don't like the president.
You mean like the Olympic hockey team and Cash hung out with them? So I
just use hockey as an example, but like whenever a team wins,
it was such a good crossover. I had to
whenever the Patriots win or a hockey team wins or whatever.
Yeah, but that's not fair when you say the Patriots because they're already shit. Sorry. So
I'm now, my reaction is still, if I was in a shooting, I would just be quiet and weird. You might see me grabbing Holly's boob. You might see an unfortunate angle where I look fat, out of shape, unprepared, or even a little panicky. But so would you.
That's all the angles,
you know?
Yeah. And I think that, like, the other thing is that sometimes in those events when we're basing, I heard you. I'm just trying to keep on
you didn't hear what's in my head. What's in my head is the shooting's going on, yelling, "Shoot my good side!" No, the photographer, not you. That's what got me. That my narration
nice.
in the back of my head.
Nice. So, like, I think that when people are starting to have these reactions, they're like, well, look at this person, and and they'll use an example of somebody who maybe was trained. Like, we expect military or police to have had some training to deal with these situations. I would expect that if there was an active shooter situation that I was in, a cop or a former military person would probably handle it better than me.
Of course.
And
but
so
hopefully handle it better than you.
Hopefully. But my point, but I think sometimes people say like, oh, and I think when you get into the gun crowd,
they're armchair blank and blanks. Yes, no, right. I entirely agree with that. And all of us who are not in that situation, and I believe the most accurate first person account that was public was the that white police officer who was at the January 6th insurrection, and he was talking about what happened, side? And he did media circuit about it. Huh?
Oh, I said which side?
The former police officer, not the black guy who got the award, but the white guy who did the media. He did the media cycle about it, and no, I was there. That's the closest firsthand account of a real military trained officer or operative speaking on what happened in one of the post MAGA presidential situations. I've never really heard a lot of other folks that I would credibly believe in these scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that a lot of them want to be interviewed or want to be sharing their opinions, because either they'll go against Donnie and go missing, or worse, they will cop to it, say everything's hunky-dory, and just like Cash, say, I've taken no days off, this is the best thing, we are 600% improved, like RFK said, just parrot stupid talking points that aren't going to ever tell me the real case, because the closer we get to Donnie either dying or getting bumped out of the... You mentioned
Cash, so I'm doing my impression, sorry.
No, we got him, boys. So if there's no situation where, that hurts. If there's no situation where we have individuals who will speak up, the closer we get to Donnie dying or getting booted out of the president's seat, the less and less real voices are going to come out about it, and the less we're going to know what these real reactions are. Do I think Erica was really crying when that person caught her from the correspondence dinner? Yeah, because that's maybe how she reacts to trauma. Is she still an evil woman? Also, yes.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that I do even though this is the most clear recent example, I think there's a lot of these situations where we do that armchair quarterbacking of and again, I think rape victims are where we see this a lot too, of that's not how I would react, or just things in general. It's I think we need to start giving people grace up front, and then if 6 months later you're still fireworks every time you enter the room and you're like, Charlie's dead, then we say, okay, well, now it seems disingenuous. At the time, maybe it wasn't. We can have our you could react differently, and I won't judge you based on that, but because we're no longer in the crisis.
Okay, so you genuinely believe that your stance, and this is not a challenge to you, this is a genuine question, you believe that your stance is still more on the what's the word I'm thinking of, more on the charitable side? You're going to say, if you're ever going to say I was wrong, that's a step in the right direction. And you're still going to welcome that person to share information with them and understand why their reaction was the way it was? Or is this a sliding scale where the longer the person's in defense or in support of, the closer you're going to get to dropping off even that charitable action? Because it sounds like Matthew is always no, fuck them.
Well, Alex, you're the one who said fucker you're the one who said fucker on that 6 months ago.
Yeah, so it depends what you're saying fucker about it. Fucker for her political stances, yes.
Yeah.
Fucker for her support of evil, yes. do I think she was broken up when her husband was killed? That's a different question.
Right,
like,
right.
You know, like Jessica, and even now, just because she didn't show it on stage doesn't mean to me that we didn't see what happened off stage. But I also don't give a shit on what she went through when her husband was killed, because she's an evil piece of shit. I hope she suffered. I really do, because she is harming the country in her reactions, regardless of what her emotional state was.
Right. But day one, we didn't know that for sure, because we didn't.
I still don't know.
I personally
I just
didn't know much
evil.
about. I didn't know much.
I didn't know she was
her.
evil then. I just knew she was enabling an evil person. Maybe she was in Stockholm syndrome and she was wishing she could leave. But the fact that she has carried the torch has shown that's not the case.
Yeah. I've seen some footage.
Or, you know, maybe it is. Maybe they're holding a gun to her head before she gets out on stage. And she's just an amazingly good actress. And she likes having sex on the couch with J.D. Vance, which is, for J.D. Vance, a threesome.
Yeah, true.
I will say this is not related to the events of this weekend, but I did hear before the events of this weekend in the last few days, someone saying, you know, it was one of those videos where they were like, when's it going to happen? You know what I'm talking about. Someone wrote in the thing, clots and prayers. and I love it.
So Rita mentioned in the chat that she's had horrible family members of whom she did not mourn when they went. And so I would like to chime in with one of my favorite things to do as a good skeptic, correct the record. People often quote Mark Twain as saying he's never wanted anyone dead, but he reads obituaries with satisfaction. And it's not actually a Mark Twain quote. Everything gets attributed to him, so you always have to be careful when something.
It's like how every parody song on Napster back in the day was Weird Al,
right?
Right.
So it was actually written. So we have a record of it. Maybe it exists earlier, but there's a written record of Clarence Darrow writing. All men have an emotion to kill. When they strongly dislike someone, they involuntarily wish he was dead. I have never killed anyone, but I have read some obituary notices with great satisfaction.
Nice.
So not even exactly the same quote. Like he's saying, people, like he has wished. You have an involuntary wish someone was dead, but doesn't mean you're actively going to do it.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's an interesting Clarence Darrow quote that fits into the situation.
Yeah.
So I just have an expectation that my reaction in these situations, I'm all armchair. Like I wouldn't have been able to tell you what it is, you know? And I think all of us aren't able to say what it is. But even though I am the one of the three of us with the most alike been in an active shooting situation, even my reaction is sort of different from what theirs were. But I'm also not a high-ranking official who's targeted specifically. So maybe I would have been picked up by my jacket pads and lifted like an air hook away from a table. And,
which you should be. That's their job, and it's your job as the person being protected to let them do their job, because they theoretically know where they're taking you rather than you running randomly.
Yeah,
correct.
So,
but there seemed to be a lot of random running around just the same in that whole situation.
Yeah, well, not everybody has an assigned Secret Service person to escort them out.
Right.
At some point before, I'm pretty sure it was before Logan was born, Sarah and I were driving. I was driving. Sarah was in the passenger seat, which is rare for us, by the way. And we were driving, and we're on the right side of the road, and a car comes out from like a weird like side entrance, like not a right angle, like a weird like bare left kind of situation where the road goes this and there's this bare left, and they pull out and quickly realize that they're going to pull out into another car that's coming along with them, so they pull into oncoming traffic into where I am at. I drive right in between that car coming at me and the car that's on the other side of the road going where it's supposed to be, and I drive like right between them, like on a like instant notice. And then as soon as it's over, I pull over and I just like, and Sarah's like, how the fuck did you do that? I'm like, if you had asked me if I could do that, I would never have guessed. But like sometimes you just like get lucky, your training on doing something kicks in, and it worked. But I also would, like, if I had to have guessed before that, I would have been like, I probably would have gotten in a car head-on collision.
Well, I mean, if the same situation happened 5 times, it's certainly possible 4 out of 5 times you would get in an accident, and you were lucky enough. time. And maybe there's been other times when you've swerved and, and also escaped, injury. But when you watch someone who has an accident, they didn't swerve the right way. Sometimes your instinct is to go left or right. You go one direction. If it happens to be an empty lane, you live. If it's not, you crash. And that's
exactly
survivorship bias,
Yeah. And after that point, I remember thinking though that like, yes, sometimes it will work. And they tell you all the time, if this is not a here thing, but like if you're in somewhere where there's actual snow, they tell you like, if you're skidding, turn into the skid.
Always turn into the skid.
Which is counterintuitive to people who've never done it. But I know I've driven in snow, so I know how to do it. So there's all these things that like we do know, but we don't know how we're going to react.
As an old person, one thing I have had to unlearn is, along with turning into the skid, my day we were taught to pump our brakes. But now all brakes are anti-lock brakes, and they pump by themselves. So I had to unlearn that, because it was you're supposed to do this. Yeah. And even just in the rain, if he's skidding in the rain, it doesn't have to be a snowstorm. That was the how to slow down properly, and now it's not. But it was what I was learning.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, I think maybe we should start wrapping things up. What do you guys think?
Sure.
I'm hungry and I gotta pee.
Okay.
I'm hungry for better results. I want to stop having attempts on his life because I don't like having to talk about it. If he
for a
passes
second,
away,
I thought you meant better results on these videos, and I was like, we're doing the work. We're doing the work.
I know. He means the next guy don't miss. Damn it! Want to talk about it one last time.
Oh,
don't be a stormtrooper.
I'm so excited to see how much of this episode goes out for non-patrons.
That goes with your conspiracy theory,
right? Like all of my fuck them. Like,
and remember, they were, while the stormtroopers were keeping them busy on the Death Star, they were planting the tracker on the Millennium Falcon to follow them. They were letting them. As Princess Leia said, it was too easy. They let us escape. So that just support you're consistent. And speaking consistently, if you're consistently watching this video, go ahead and give it a like. Make a comment down in the comment section below. Don't do anything that's going to get the Secret Service following you. Just make a casual. Like, what do you like better? My old Punisher t-shirt. Hey, funny story. You hear us talking about Ricochet Rita, who's in the chat. She gave me this shirt. She used to work at a GameStop, and it was a promotional shirt, and she gave it to me. Thanks, little Ricochet Rita.
Thanks, Rita.
So subscribe to our channel, ring the notification bell, do all those good things, and we will see you in the funny papers.
Yeah. And then also, if you haven't already, or you're interested in supporting us beyond just liking and subscribing and commenting, you can go over to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. There we have a free option where you can get this right into your RSS feed wherever you want. We have a $1 option where you can get it early. You have a $3 option where you get this episode almost certainly is going to be a lot of cuts for the people who didn't pay $3 or more, because these two just talked a lot about how much they want to see certain events happen. And
why is it always us, Matthew?
I didn't say it.
I don't know, but we do it though. Probably it's fair.
And then the $10 version where we have our pre-show story time conversation shenanigans. So
learn about my kidney stone.
Yeah, learn about his kidney stone and the request that he had for me to 3D print about his kidney stone, or at the same time as his kidney stone.
I'm in pain, Mike. But can you get the 3D printer hooked up?
Yeah,
I'm in pain. Hot dog.
All right, and now,
well, I heard they have the brown spicy mustard back in a lot of locations.
Oh,
maybe that's part of the renovation to put it in a dispenser. Because I will eat their hot dog if it has a brown spicy mustard on it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
Also, before we go, there's two things I want to mention. One because Matthew mentioned hot dogs. If anybody knows someone from KM Hot Dog Company, have them send the not all beef, the beef and pork natural casing to North Carolina. I can't get them, and they're amazing. That's my first thing. That's the most important thing.
So, Clue's Coney Island hot dogs, which we all know and love. When he can't get his regular hot dogs from Detroit, he buys KM all beef natural casing as a replacement, and only the finest connoisseurs notice the difference because they're really close to what he usually uses.
But I don't want the all beef.
I know you don't want the all beef
because the all beef you can get
you're
in
Gaisha. I understand.
A sausage doesn't have beef. Anyway,
hot dogs do. So there you go.
They can have both. Anyway, it's better. Someday I'm going to bring them down. I'm going to make them for you because I'm going to freeze them and I'm going to put them in a cooler for you and bring them down. The other thing I want to mention. We can make one hot dog and you'll be fine. The other thing I want to mention is that Matthew, Alex, and I have discussed doing a sort of documentary that will be it'll be somewhat on this channel, somewhat with our Chocolate Diamond brand. And we're talking about the budget crisis and how it is affecting schools in North Carolina. If you're listening to this and you know anybody who may be interested in talking with us for that podcast, for that documentary, please let us know. We're right now trying to gather as much information. We want to figure out how to help schools legislatively and how to help them beyond that, because some of these things take a long time to turn these ships around, and they're going to be budgeting for the next school year in the next couple months. And so, please, if you have any ideas or know anybody who can help, let us know. We're going to try to get this information out as best as possible. And that, like I said, that doesn't have to be just legislative. That can also be if you know someone that donates
activists
or whatever.
in that area.
Yeah, activists, charities, anything that can help. And it's a statewide issue. It is
Teachers.
It's not just the area that we all live in. It is a statewide issue, unfortunately. And education is important. And if you're outside of North Carolina, look into what is going on with your schools, because schools always need more.
I wonder if Rect Anus wants to talk about it.
Sure, yeah.
He's in the education software and training field.
Reach out to him. Seriously, I'm trying to. I've got 2 interviews that are, one that's scheduled, one that is in the middle of being scheduled, and
I'll ping him.
Yeah. But yeah, we really are trying to do this specifically for North Carolina schools. But if your state is having similar issues, please figure out what you can do, because education is so important. And in most places, our teachers are not paid enough, but they're also not supported financially enough.
I have friends who are teachers who moved out of North Carolina to other places just for better pay. They left their families, their parental families, to raise their kids in Utah because Utah pays so much better than the Raleigh-Durham area.
Yeah. All right. So with that, Matthew, do you have any last thoughts?
My only last thought is to thank everyone for sticking around here talking about the big stuff. We love shooting the shit with you.